Hello, everyone. Welcome back in our space. If you have been living under a rock or if you're new to this space, let me reintroduce you to the fabulous Jacqueline Byrne, clinical psychotherapist specialized in eating disorder recovery and now also podcaster. And for all the women that don't know me, my name is Claudia Vidor, nutrition and dietetic clinician, founder of the Recover from HI support group. And today we're going to discuss eating disorders and how to navigate eating disorders in pregnancy, which is such a hot topic and it's not discussed enough. But first of all, welcome, Jacqueline. How are you doing? Always a pleasure seeing you.
Always a pleasure to see you, Claudia. I am doing really well and so excited to be here to talk about this very important topic. How are you? How have you been?
Yeah, I'm very, very excited. Lots of things have been happening in my space. I'm just finishing running a masterclass and a couple of live over the past 2 days. So if anyone is interested, just drop a comment below and make sure also to follow Jacqueline Podcast, which is
the Sisterhood Downloads. You can find us wherever you use your whatever your favorite platform is for your podcasts, where you'll be able to find us there.
Beautiful. And I'm going to pop the link below anyway. So today I'm aiming to go through 5 top strategies that I really would like to discuss in terms of how to navigate eating disorders and disorder behaviors around food and training when pregnant. But first of all, let me ask you, Jacqueline, why do you think that it's important for us to have this conversation?
Eating disorders are so much more prevalent than most people realize, and it is shocking to me that the maternity care space often doesn't recognize the potential of women to have eating disorders coinciding with their pregnancies and postpartum as well, so that there is an assumption if you're pregnant, you're not concurrently experiencing an eating disorder, which is a dangerously incorrect assumption. And knowing that so many people are affected by eating disorders that are at some stage of life going to be experiencing a pregnancy, which in itself might come with increased stress. It certainly comes with body changes and appetite changes, eating changes. If you are in a space of vulnerability, becoming pregnant, going through a pregnancy is more likely to amplify the eating disorder, to trigger eating disorder ideas or any unfinished business that you had with your eating disorder, not to make it step away. I think the ideal that you're doing the sort of concept of the selfless mother that we have in our society, that you should be focused on your baby or prioritizing your baby, doesn't take into account how complex and aggressive eating disorders can be. Pardon me. So we need to understand how to support women to navigate pregnancy if they're going through disordered eating at that same time, because many, many people will be having that experience for the safety of themselves and their baby.
And I agree with you on so many levels. And there is this misconception that if you're pregnant, then you're fixed, you're sorted, there is no problem with you any longer. But there are also so many triggers when during pregnancy. One is, for example, stepping on a scale, which is something that is normally asked by medical professionals whenever you go for a visit. Number 2 is definitely seeing your body changes and also experiencing all these symptoms that sometimes are pretty uncomfortable. Nausea, constipation, sometimes even vomiting, that can also trigger past experiences in the eating disorder realm. And then all of a sudden you are in charge of this baby, you're in charge of taking care of this, of your womb, and you may be required to eat more frequently or to be pretty strict with the kind of things that you can eat or or you're not allowed to eat all of a sudden. Because I had women, for example, that they did such a great job to really tap into food freedom, and then they got pregnant and they had so many rules that I had to follow. Not even to mention the training, because you may have gone from exercising 3 to 4 times a day, sometimes even running, doing CrossFit, to being asked to completely rest and relax and do Pilates and relaxation and yoga. So it's such a big change from where the kind of life that a woman was living before. And the number one thing that I normally recommend when women get pregnant and they know, they are aware that they still have some disorder habits, is first of all to create that support net by opening the communication gateway with the medical professionals that is in charge of their health while pregnant. It is also paramount from my perspective to seek medical support in terms of having a nutritionist by your side, to having a psychologist by your side. But it's also very important to let the people around you know what you're going through, and that can be your partner or even a close friend or a sibling, whatever that person can be, but also letting the obstetrician or the gynecologist or even the midwife or the doula know that you're having some difficulties during the pregnancy. What does come to mind when you think about supporting women that are experiencing these disorder behaviors and while pregnant?
I agree with everything you've said wholeheartedly, and just want to particularly pick up on that professional support piece, that there's, most of us would feel quite comfortable or accepting or even entitled to support around the pregnancy itself, and want for the baby to be monitored or be supported by the right professionals, the right fit of professionals for you in that obstetrics experience. It's really heartbreaking that there can be more of a sense of shame around needing support for mental health or eating disorder specific dietetic support, because that's going to have as much impact on the gestational experience, the health of mother and baby, yet because it is seen as more mother-centric, there can be more shame around it. And a lot of women feel embarrassed that they're at this stage of life or in this experience of becoming a mum, maybe even feeling like a bad mum before giving birth because of having these needs. And I think there's a lot of issues in our society that makes, if women are feeling like that, it speaks to the narratives that are around motherhood and pregnancy that are problematic. But that would be one of the strongest things I could suggest, is to do your best not to buy into shame narratives around seeking support and finding the appropriate professionals, not just for the pregnancy, but for your mental health, and making sure that nutritionally you're supported as best as possible within what your capacity is at that time.
Yeah, especially because when a woman is pregnant, she rarely gets asked how she's feeling, especially on a mental level. I've been an open book in discussing my experience with my 2 pregnancies, and in both situations I experienced severe hyperemesis gravidarum, and I was in bed for many months, and I was fed through a TPN. So it wasn't a really nice experience, but to say the least. But it was shocking to me then and still now that I had no one coming to check on me. Everyone just wanted to make sure that my blood pressure was fine, that I was not dehydrated, that my baby was moving, that my baby was kicking, that my blood sugar level was regulated. But no one really asked me, how are you handling this? And how was your relationship with food and with your body and with yourself in the past? No one in the 9th month of pregnancy and the 7 years after have ever asked me that question, which speaks volume about how mothers can be treated during their pregnancies. And by the way, I feel very privileged because I had medical support. And So we are in a very privileged positions, and obviously we are very aware of that. But it's also very important to underline that sometimes that the medical system can lack on the type of support that some women with past eating disorders or current eating disorders really need. And I think that it's also very important for the two of us today to discuss postpartum and how having a difficult pregnancy can really impact the postpartum experience. Would you like to shed some light on that?
Absolutely. We also focus so much on the birth as a sort of finish line to the pregnancy, and don't extend the conversation into the thereafter, so that there isn't maybe the opportunity to fully understand both physically and mentally that once birth has been achieved, there's a whole other chapter of demand on the body and the mind, and you're entering into that on the back of what for many women is a demanding experience in itself, being pregnancy. And the birth itself might have been a very draining or difficult experience as well. It's been quite depleting for the body. So if eating has been inadequate on a physical level, postpartum depletion means that the body's stores have really been drained, and the body will prioritize the health of the baby. But that means that anything that it could suck out of the mother system and give to the baby, it will do so, leaving the mum as a bit of an empty shell after that experience, if there wasn't surplus in that system due to inadequate nutrition or for other reasons like illness. I think that's also quite metaphorical for what happens psychologically, that during pregnancy, things can start to emerge with prenatal mental health because of hormonal changes, but also developmental changes, that we start to re-roll ourselves in the readying for parenthood. We start to reflect more on our own childhoods, on our own experience of being mothered. The relationship changes. If you're in a relationship, a romantic relationship, that starts to shift, and that might bring up some new challenges or things that were easier to kind of put on the back burner for a while come to the fore at these times, and again are exacerbated after the birth, because sleep deprivation might be something that starts to occur, usually does start to occur. There is a new type of stress in the relationship. There's less personal resourcing time, capacity, etc., so that this strain on the system is so much more extreme. And I think there's I'm quite fascinated in this topic in itself as to why in our society we do sugarcoat pregnancy and parenthood, the postnatal experience, to such an extent, in the way that even something like prams are advertised. It's part of marketing, of course, but it sets up this subtle messaging that pregnant women are glowing and thriving and healthy and well, and postpartum you're just in this newborn bubble of love, and it's all wonderful, and yes, there's much potential for disappointment in those experiences. But that then also sets us up for gaslighting ourselves or shaming ourselves because we think it was meant to be like this, and the discrepancy between our experience that we're actually having is so dire. We assume there's something very wrong with our baby, with ourselves, with our relationship, with our body, when much of it is a symptom of where there's been a lack of support and a lack of resourcing. I was going to share my experience as well in being pregnant, knowing what I know and being part of this industry. I was amazed that through my entire pregnancies, all of my pregnancies, no one asked me ever whether I'd ever had an eating disorder, whether how I was feeling about my body changes. There were more generic questions about mental health, but there wasn't a lot of inquiry into other experiences that I might have been having. And even the assumption of safety to step onto a scale or to have certain conversations about my body's changes and needs weren't approached with any information. And that really speaks to our assumption as well that a pregnant woman wouldn't have these types of struggles.
Mm. And you made me giggle before when you were talking about the pram and how the advertisement has really depicted a reality that it's really far from the truth, because every single time that we see an ad that they sell nappies or things for babies, the baby's always wearing white and is always so happy and so giggly and cuddling mama. And the reality is more of a sleep deprivation kind of Groundhog Day. And a nourished mama has definitely a much better capacity to go through the turmoil or the first couple of months and the first 3 months. And in terms of what you said about your own experience with while you were pregnant, which is sounds very similar to mine, I also remember a midwife giving me an advice in terms of which supplement to take. And even the supplements that were given me, they were really like low grade type of suggestions that didn't really make a difference in terms of how I was feeling and what my body needed. So going back to the beginning of our conversation, I think that on top of seeking that professional support and opening the communication gateway with the people that you are already seeing and they are already helping you through this pregnancy, is also to find access to individualized care and to get a proper nutritional plan that can really help to recharge your body, especially because every single trimester has different needs. And not many people speak about that. You may need different type of foods, different type of supplements, depending on the trimester, the food that needs to be cooked differently, and also the postpartum in the 4th trimester, so in the postpartum phase. Another variety of foods and supplements could be welcome. So finding that individualized support from a nutritional perspective could be a game changer and definitely beneficial. And let's talk about the psychological part of supporting a woman through during her pregnancy. What do you think that it could be helpful in, simply because you are the expert in this situation?
Definitely, in terms of if it's through friendship or family support, normalizing so many of these experiences can be profoundly helpful. Just honesty around how difficult it is for most women, and how the expectations often fall short of the reality in making this life transition, means that that the most dangerous scenario is when a woman is self-blaming, and when she, in a postnatal experience, believes that she is the problem. That's when we start to move into really dangerous territory, where if there could be an offering that probably a lot of what that person's experiencing, many of those around her have in that season of their life. And that with that, there is so much support that could be offered, both practically with things like offering to mind the child or support so that she can have some time to herself, or hold the baby so she can eat a meal, sitting down and actually enjoy it. These would be things that would be also supportive of her mental health. And then certainly with more clinical professional support that allows her to talk to someone that is specialized in the area of postnatal health, mental health, and helping her to work through those adjustments and challenges that have come into her life since giving birth.
I also would highly encourage women to avoid triggers. First of all, to being aware of what the triggers are. But for example, there is no shame when visiting the medical practice to have a blind check on the scale. So there is no need for a woman to know exactly how many kilos she has gained since getting pregnant. If there is any concern about the feelings that she's experiencing, for example, nausea or vomiting, if they are triggering. It's also very important to speak up and finding coping strategies just to start feeling better from a mental and physical perspective. And I normally also encourage women to find an accountability partner during their pregnancy journey, someone that can really understand the ins and outs of having an eating disorder and how impactful it can be, especially not only for the mom, but also for the baby and for the whole family around the woman, just to make sure that there is someone that can actually watch what's happening from an outside perspective. Because sometimes when you are living in a situation, you don't even realize the type of behaviors that you engage in day in and day out. And it may become very easy to skip a meal if you're suffering from reflux, or it may be easy to have a smaller meal if you suffer from nausea and then not to have a snack. And that's really counterproductive when trying to boost and promote the well-being of the whole pregnancy. Is there anything else that comes to mind?
I think as well for in terms of mental health, if you've had any sort of eating disorder background, I love that you've brought to light the empowering women to ask for what is going to be useful for them in situations like medical appointments. I think too, there's so much around the transitional theme of coming into motherhood and what that brings up in your identity and your role within your family of origin as you're developing your own family. To be self-reflective on that is very important, that if you're trying to avoid the difficult feelings that are coming up during pregnancy, that might make the postnatal experience harder. If it's possible to get support in that phase, it would be really advantageous, so that there is more understanding and more that's been worked through by the time you have a baby with you, and then ideally are able to continue that journey, because it is something that can be so such a significant roadblock when you don't know that that's sort of part of what is by design developmentally in this life transition. To make an adjustment in your world means sometimes needing to process some things in the past.
And just to wrap up this video, I also would like to encourage women to not buy into the hype. There is no such a thing as belly-only pregnancy. There is no need to get your body back once you deliver your baby. Don't buy into all those messages that have been created to simply, I don't know, why have they been created, Jacqueline? I'm still wondering about that. Simply coming from a sick society, I suppose.
There's a really interesting stat just quickly to share on that most pregnancy models aren't pregnant. So when you're seeing maternity clothes advertised, when you're seeing the pram commercials, and there's a woman that has a rounded stomach, it's usually a prosthetic stomach on a woman that's not pregnant, which is why we have this idea of a belly-only pregnancy, is that she looks like she only has a belly on an average, otherwise, unpregnant body, which is accurate. So just being aware of the body, the trickery of marketing and the agenda of these messages that we're being sent is incredibly important, so you're not sucked into that rabbit hole.
Absolutely. Don't buy into the lie. Always challenge what you see, and more than anything else, if you think that you need the support, if you think that something that you're doing is just not sitting right with you, make sure to reach out. And you can start by reaching out to your medical professional, a person that you feel close to, or simply send Jacqueline and I a message, and we are going to be there cheering you on and helping you through the process. It has been, once again, an absolute delight having you, Jacqueline. Is there anything else that you would like to share with us today, or that's it?
I think I'm all done. Just to also join you in really encouraging women to reach out and not be alone in this experience. It's an incredible investment of your time and resources to support yourself now so that you can be best equipped for the chapter ahead.
Absolutely. And if you're watching this and you're planning to get pregnant and you're not pregnant yet and you're suffering from some disturbances, make sure that you invest in yourself starting from today. There is not a better time as of today. So once again, thank you so much, Jacqueline, and I see you back next month.
See you soon, everyone.
Bye.